Hello, my name is EJ LeBlanc, and today I'm making a guest post on HPT Treasures. And today I decided to go ahead and make a video because I have this handy uh, PowerPoint presentation. I've got a lot on my plate today, and I figured that it would be a good way to just dust off an old presentation that I gave at the Adobe e-learning conference here in DC back in 2017. No, actually, this one's 2016. And anyone that knows me knows eventually that I'm going to share this story with whoever I come into contact with, because it's how I got into the learning and performance profession, and it's a great way to share about Veterans Day and talk about what my experience was like in the Navy and how that transitioned into me becoming a better human learning and performance architect and instructional designer and developer. So without further ado, I'm wanting to encourage anyone that's listening to this to know, especially if you're a human learning and performance professional, your job matters a great deal, and performance analysis matters a great deal. So, I was in the Navy from 1997 to 2002. This is actually a blurry photo my dad took from his Tiger cruise of the Kentucky coming in to pick him up. Whenever he was able to go out on a Tiger cruise with us, and that's me. That was a Junior Sailor of the Year photo that they took, and this is also my dad coming in on the to the USS Kentucky. This is a picture that he also took of it whenever we were welcoming everyone on board. And it's an old photo, you could tell. And I was on the USS Kentucky, 737 Blue. It's a ballistic missile submarine. And I was on there for 5 years as a sonar technician for submarines. And yes, that is me with a high and tight. So my job was to, as a sonar technician, was to go into a very dark room and stare at a screen just like you see here and watch what's called a waterfall display, because all of the broadband data would be scrolling down, and essentially I would move my cursor across that to listen to the sounds that were indicated and figure out what that sound was and report to my sonar supervisor. Oh, hey, sonar supervisor, I've got a spherical ray demonstrace bearing 314, classified. Well, it could be a biologic like a whale or some shrimp. Snapping shrimp are kind of cool. It could be a merchant, and I would give that initial classification by nature of sound, but then it would be handed off to a classification operator, and then we would really use a bunch of cool stuff to figure out exactly what that vehicle was, or what that demonstrace, that signal that we were getting was, and what that meant. And anyway, you could tell this is old school technology, and this was a standard sonar shack back in the day, actually using what's called the AN/BQQ6 sonar system. Believe it or not, some of these are still in use today. And whenever we would be underwater, we would be the eyes and ears of the submarine, because there's no windows on a submarine. And that's what a ballistic missile submarine kind of looks like underwater. And whenever I initially reported, I was not assigned to the Q6 system, but if you were to walk into the sonar room and see those Q6 systems set up, you would look over to the left or aft, and you would see this dual screen system with the little keyboard. This is not a BQR-22, but it looks kind of like it, so I'm using it here. And one of my first battle stations, I remember showing up and people, I was told, "Sit here, nub." Nub means non-useful body. And I had no idea what I was looking at, but I remember, okay, I sat down, I was like, what is this thing? And I was told, it doesn't matter, it's useless, like you. And I looked down at the bottom of this plaque, and it said, AMBQR22 operator. You know what? I'm going to be the best AMBQR22 operator I could be. And so there was no way to do that because no one on the boat knew anything about this system. They considered it useless. No one knew anything about it. And so on my own, in addition to regular ship's qualifications, I found the submarine onboard training for the AMPQR 22 Alpha, and I took the apprentice, the journeyman, and the master level courses. They were all CD-ROM based. I would go into the towed array handling space, and there were times that I'd go and I completed it in 3 weeks, and there were times that I would go and turn around and look at my sonar crew, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, did you know this thing?" And they'd literally say, "Shut up, nub." And I could not get anyone to pay any attention whatsoever about the wonders of the BQR 22. Until one mid-watch. I show up to the mid-watch, and it was weird because the lights were on and the screens were off because the Q6 sonar system had completely failed. And so people were making jokes and saying, "Oh, deploy the cane array, we're blind, we can't see." And we were still underwater. And this was very serious because we were also on alert. We were the people that, should the president have decided to launch nuclear weapons against an adversary, we were the people who would have responded to that call. And we didn't have sonar, so if we had to pull in, there might have been a lapse in coverage. And that's a national security issue. And so I reported to the sonar room, saw what was going on. 30 seconds after reporting in, I noticed that my baby's working like a champ. Waterfall's audio data is coming through just fine from the spherical array, and I knew that was why that system existed, was specifically as a redundancy. And so no one else had even looked at it. No one else had even seen it or looked at it. And so I immediately gained a contact that I put on my headphones, and I say, "Sonar supervisor, gain spherical array demonstration bearing 314, classified surface contact by nature sound." Hey, I had everyone's attention. And so I spent the next 24 hours training my crew. We were able to stay at sea, and because of that, I got some really cool awards. I was the Junior Sailor of the Year. I got 2 Navy Achievement Medals, not just for that one incident, but for some really cool stuff that we did during a battle E. And, really good stuff. It's definitely a highlight of my Navy career, and I share that because the learning and performance community needs to hear stories like these, and it's still worth reiterating, even though I've already shared this a few times. And anyone that knows me knows that I'll share it over and over again. So a lot of people talk about learning by chance, which is what the modern learning approach is, or learning by design, which is what a performance improvement approach is. And I kid you not, I made this back in 2016. So this is the exact slide unchanged as I made it back in 2016. But I really like Guy Wallace's discussion of how you take training and development suppliers and customers, and how you have this product line inventory, and you either push content or you pull content. And the pushing content, where you put the customer leadership says, "Hey, this is important stuff, you need to take this," right? And the pull is where the students themselves pull that information. And if that submarine onboard training had not been available on the boat in those little CD-ROMs, there's no way that I would have known anything about the BQR-22 or been able to educate myself about its uses or wonders. And we would not have been able to stay at sea. Or we were on our way to pulling in. Like, that's what the verdict was. So in that case, I pulled the content from the SOBA training library that was on board, and but that was definitely something that should have been pushed. That was definitely a piece of content that should have been pushed. And that's why in such a scenario, you've got the 70-20-10 model. The 10% of that formal learning, you've got to be really clear on exactly what that is and exactly what your accomplishments are that your students need to have. And someone went through the time to realize that for this critical piece of equipment, that they needed that training and that they needed computer-based training of some sort so that it could be part of the submarine training onboard training library, and so that someone like me could come along and take that. In that case, I pulled that content and took it. But at any rate, it's just something to think about. And if it wasn't for that content, I would have felt like I was being sent out like a sheep among the wolves. We would not have been able to stay at sea. It would have been nice to have a shepherd to help me through that particular process, or even to have that been formalized in some way. So as a novice, I needed that virtual shepherd in that particular environment. And that shepherd was carefully crafted CBT. That shepherd definitely took me through the hey, here's the system, here's how it works. And the Journeyman, the Apprentice, and the Master level courses built me beyond proficiency, and I became the ship's subject matter expert and was able to, in a moment of need, teach everyone else how to use that so that we could stay at sea. So how do you know if you need advanced e-learning, or whether it's supposed to be push or pull? It's all about performance. Consider the following from Michael Allen's Designing Successful E-Learning. Presentations versus interactivity. So presentations, the content is readily understood by targeted learners. The errors are harmless. The desired change to existing skill is minor and can be achieved without practice. The learners can easily differentiate between good and adequate performance, and mentorship is expensive, and you're expecting people to have that mentorship underway. Whenever you're considering interactivity, these are the signs you should see. Learners are diverse in their ability to understand the content. Errors are injurious, costly, or difficult to remedy. Behavior changes will require practice. Behavior changes will require practice. The learners need guidance to differentiate between good and poor performance, and mentorship is constantly limited or unavailable. Now, in my case, the mentorship was not there, and so I absolutely needed the high-level interactivity in order to engage with this system that no one on board had any familiarity with. And that comes to, we used to say whenever I was working with Lockheed Martin, that a lot of the customers, a lot of the people on the submarine, a lot of the sailors, you would teach them and have a training event in 1 year, but in a year and a half, that person, the odds that that person was still on that boat was very low. And the odds were that he or she would be somewhere else. And so even whenever you do have the presentations and you have the mentorship expectation, there has to be, in such a situation, an expectation that knowledge will have to be managed and transferred via some type of self-paced interactive experience. And so you need advanced e-learning. Now what do? This is a thing that Joe Ganchi said. Courses are not cookie-cutter productions. I see a lot of e-learning and even discussions revolving around augmented reality and virtual reality, where they're just wanting to find a template that they could find this cookie-cutter thing and give that to the students. Whoever put together that BQR22 training, it was a tailored presentation made specifically to teach someone just like me, fresh out of high school, how to become an expert sonar technician or sonar operator on the AMPQR-22. And so it was a carefully crafted course that was specifically tailored to my specific needs. And I think that we should consider the audience very carefully, no matter what we're trying to accomplish, no matter what course we're trying to create. If you don't know who you're talking to and what you're trying to accomplish with that, no matter how nice the cookie tastes, it's only going to fall flat. It's not going to accomplish the goal of what a carefully crafted presentation can do. And so consider the learning experience, the pre-instruction, the instruction, and I suppose especially the performance, because in my particular case, the pre-instruction was my arrival to the submarine, my instruction was learning about the ship, and my performance was not only knowing my way around the ship, but knowing my way around the equipment and being able to use that equipment. I'd like to thank Guy Wallace for continuing to be an influence on me today, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be able to share on this platform. So for all of the other veterans out there, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.